TKO Talk.
So what happened to the trash card? UFC 318 started off straight out of a fucking cannon. This card started off in the early prelims with 5 first-round finishes.
You just gotta keep living, man. L-I-V-I-N.
I don't know, man. To me, it seems like these big-wig content creators just can't get it right unless they're talking about There are a couple of things I want to say about some fights that, to me, are noteworthy. But first, I want to talk about the production of this card, the tone of this card, the theme of this card. This card was built around Dustin Poirier and his retirement. We all know that, and I do appreciate that being executed properly by the UFC. But beyond the idiots saying trash card, no, beyond me bringing this up to say we should no longer be listening to these idiots, I think it's worth saying it was a blessing in disguise. What ended up happening with these prelims going so fast was empty space to fill, and by George, the UFC had that on lock. They had several different promotion reels for both Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier, and in my opinion, it filled that empty space so well, and it flowed so well. This is one of the rare times where I really felt like Daniel Cormier did a very good job on the commentary. Paul Felder and John Anik were on point as always. But the way that they were able to remain consistent in the theme of Dustin's retirement is what impressed me.
Oh, right away, Felton shows his experience there. He reaches over with his left hand and blocks the seatbelt of Davidson. You can see here in the top left-hand corner of your screen, reaches over, blocks the seatbelt with his left hand, frees himself with his right hand.
I don't know what everyone else is thinking, but this might be the most emotionally charged UFC card I've ever seen. And before going further into the production and my recap of it and what I thought about it all, those 5 first fights completely set the tone for the main event and for the idea of the gimmick that is the BMF. And let me tell you something about that BMF title right now. Some dorks want to call it a WWE belt, and some dorks want to call it a gimmick belt. I got news for you. All of these are gimmick belts, prop belts, owned by the companies. Now, I don't have any kind of problem with that, but if you're going to talk about the BMF title as being a fraudulent belt, you might as well talk about every belt being fraudulent. That said, I think there is no argument anymore that the BMF title does have value in the UFC. That is because of Max Holloway. The connective tissue that I have brought up before regarding the BMF title, these dudes ready to throw down, the spirit of Nate Diaz, of Jorge Masvidal, Justin Gaethje, the spirit of Dustin Poirier. It's like Max Holloway is the Shang Tsung of UFC.
Kill yourself. Or be killed.
Absorbing the souls of the most violent warriors that have ever stepped in the octagon. These prelims set that tone. These prelims picked up where Max left off at UFC 300. You get what I'm saying? And even going past those 5 finishes, those 5 first-round finishes, on up the ladder with the likes of Marvin Vettori and Brendan Allen, who, by the way, Brendan Allen looked the best I ever seen him. My opinion. Let me know if you think different. Broadcasting the trauma that Marvin Vettori and his family are going through for the past few months. Highlighting that before his fight, pouring some emotion, finally, into a UFC card. You have this idea of Dustin retiring in his hometown, and these vignettes where one of them is where he's sitting on a big screen. It looked like the Sony screen that the WWE has. Now, I've been just saying this has been seamless and integrated for a very long time, and they're only getting better at it. I'm not saying they use the WWE screen, but the inspiration came from that because WWE was the first company in the US to have that screen. And I'll be sure to link that video below when I was discussing it over a year ago. Showing Dustin's family and his former coaches, current coaches, thanking him and believing in him, and Dustin breaking down crime. And then you go back and think about Dustin saying to be appreciative of the women in your life, something I firmly agree with.
What is this called? Gay.
How can you not be invested before the pay-per-view even started? Showing Max Holloway's Hawaiian culture, I don't know, it seems like maybe Kai Kara France's Maori culture inspired the UFC a little bit to give some more fighters, especially the ones that are shining brightest in the public eye, to shine bright on the screen. One thing the WWE and UFC will be able to combat fan backlash with is letting their athletes breathe, letting their characters and personalities and cultures breathe on air. It was amazing. Going into the pay-per-view, you were already charged. You were charged off Dustin, you were charged off Vettori, you were charged off Brendan's performance against Vettori. The idea of Max pointing in the middle of the octagon, this card felt special. This card, as a consumer and fan that doesn't get to attend physically all the time, was more exciting than UFC IFW. Of course, opinions can differ if you were actually at IFW because you get a world of exhibits and meeting fighters and whatnot. All that's a good time, a little bit different. But this felt big going into the pay-per-view. New details emerging in the UFC broadcast that are clearly inspired by WWE broadcasts. The hashtag of UFC 318 briefly appearing here and there in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Song titles playing before commercial breaks with the artist and Spotify, Apple Music adverts. When they're showing the tail of the tape, the vertical tickers showing outside of the UFC accomplishments of the fighters. Very beautiful and nice touch. The digital apron, the drone, the camera crane, the lighting. The UFC is leveling up the production value of these fights. And if they continue to let these fighters breathe and they celebrate their greatest and most noble and moral compass correct fighters, this is a way to compete with all the backlash that comes here and there, the controversies and whatnot. Very smart, in my opinion.
Perfect.
But at the same time, as a fan, it's so refreshing to see. Not every fight was a banger, and not every fight was full of elite fights, not even the ones with the finishes. But from the very first fight of the night, the card felt like a BMF card, BMF energy. Not a whole lot of pussyfooting on this night. After the fight was over, or after the main event was over, the camera stayed with Dustin as he walked out. It was really cool seeing everybody shaking his hand and hugging him, wishing him well and whatnot. Dude, one of the best guys to be in that octagon ever. Heartwarming to see. If your spirit wasn't uplifted, I actually feel sorry for you. At the same time, I do think this was appropriate for Dustin. And if this retirement is permanent, I don't think it was a bad idea. At least take a year or two off. And the reason I say that is because upon his walkout, he told Mike Bone that he thought the fight was closer than what the scorecard was. And if he actually did think that, it might be time to hang him up.
Slide.
And if I can real quick, I would like to talk about Max Holloway. The first thing I want to say is that I noticed Max looked significantly bigger than Dustin Poirier. Now I might have been tripping, and if I'm wrong, I'm happy to get some kind of explanation, but where I noticed it the most was Max's legs. But he was bigger, he had a bigger frame, he was taller. It was just okay. I mean, Dustin looked like a featherweight compared to him. The other thing I want to say about Max is I was very incorrect. I thought Max was in a tough spot. I don't think he is. If there was another 10 seconds, I think he would have dropped Dustin after he pointed to the center of the octagon. Max's killer instinct, Jago Ultra combo at the end of all of his fights is one of the most fear-instilling things to permeate through the UFC. Dustin wanted no part of it. I do not think it's crazy that Max could get to a title fight very quickly. I just hope it's not right away. Or I just hope it's not the next fight. I was very impressed with this fight, with the night. I was with my friends. It was a good energy. I do believe I need to recalculate what Max's trajectory is gonna be in the lightweight division. What a way for Dustin to go out. Again, those vignettes and videos were awesome, and I hope for the right people the UFC does this again.
I'm dancing on TikTok. I'm dancing with her. I told you about right now.
I do believe have to say really quickly as a side note, Paulo Costa, he looked really good, and I will give that to him. And I feel like I have to say this because I have covered Paulo, and I have made videos about him saying I don't think he's elite. I'll link it up. I still do not think he's elite. I still don't think he's going to win a title. However, this was a very good outing from him. I was certain Roman was going to take him out. And I have to give credit where credit is due to a fighter that I have been covering and criticizing since this channel started. That's about all I need to say for these fighters now. As far as Dustin Poirier goes, thank you, sir. I've been watching since day one. I appreciate your conduct, your behavior, your personality, and your leadership. And I hope other fighters learn a lot from you.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfucker.